Well, folks, welcome back. This is your host, ID Jester. Legions of War here, new board game that I'm creating, a tactical card game fantasy. And we're going through a quick example of play with just some units, should give you guys a taste and a flavor of what's going on. We've already had Goblin committing suicide. We've got lots of wounds on different units, and all kinds of good things going on here. Tactical decisions as we're playing this battle, hypothetical battle that's going on here. So um, I will try and move a little bit faster so we can get through a whole round here and let you guys see what's going on. So, when we left off, it was the Goblin's activation. He can switch he can switch, he can delay, whatever he wishes to do. He could pull the plug on himself, which of course will do massive amounts of damage to both the Knight and the Goblin, depending on how well he rolls. But I think the longer he stays alive, the better off he is. I think the Goblin is going to go ahead and attack the Knight. So he's might as well keep it alive as long as he can. Notice he has 2 wounds. He has 2 life level. Before he activates, obviously the blue player can play a card. He chooses not to. The red player can choose to play a card. He chooses not to. So then it comes to whether or not he wants to swap spots, if he wants to delay, or if he wants to activate. He's going to go ahead and activate and attack this Knight here. 3d6. Nope, 4d6 actually. Let's start over. 4d6 because the Goblin Captain's still alive. 4d6. And the Goblins roll the green dice, of course. Hitting on 4 and above. He rolls a 4, 2, 3, 3, so he rolls no 1s, which unfortunately this Knight is armored. He does 1 point of damage. Yep, that's not going to give him any bonuses either. So now this Knight is in the danger zone because now he has 3 wounds and he has only 2 life level. So we shall see what ends up happening with the Knight. Again, all of these numbers and such are subject to change once we get a chance to do further play testing and trying out different units and everything, just to see. So if some of the numbers seem low or too high or whatever, just again, this is early access, folks. Think of this as alpha software here. So it's going to change along the way. We've already made a major change just from yesterday to today, in that there are 3 now physical damage, or there are 3 different attack damage types. If you missed last episode, originally there was melee, ranged, and magical, and I thought the confusion between having the attack type and the attack damage could be a little confusing to people. So now I just have to update my cards and do all that. But now the attack damage types are going to be physical, elemental, or magical. So it gives us a better variety, and it will not confuse you between the melee and the ranged, which is your attack type and your attack damage. So again, things are always going to be changing, altering, and until at such time as it's completely finished. So the Goblin did his activation and did a point of damage to the Knight, and now activation goes over. Activation goes over to this Goblin here. Ploof. So he can attack the monk, which he will do. He's going to actually do 4 because this goblin captain, again, the goblin captain can't give himself, every other goblin, but because this goblin captain is alive, he will get a bonus, so he's up to 4d6, and he'll attack the monk. So let's roll. 4, 6, 2, 1. So he will take 2 points of damage. The monk doesn't have any defenses. So let's just bring this to the front. So there we go. But fortunately for the monk, he's got plenty of hit points. He doesn't need to make a death saving throw. So that goblin activated. So we move on to next unit. It can choose to delay, it can choose to activate, or it can choose to switch with an ally unit, which normally costs an activation. But does the monk, maybe he wants to reposition better. He could try to move over here and then activate again and try to get the wizard out from where the giant spider is. Interesting. What can we do? We can do lots of different choices, obviously. So Monk is actually going to activate his special ability, Quick Reflexes. So this is, again, before activating the unit, he's activating a special ability here. Monks can choose to switch with an ally unit one time without a cost of activation. So he's actually going to switch with, he can only do it with an ally, so he's actually going to switch places with the queen. Obviously the wounds go with him. And now we look at, again, is this queen activated? No, she is not. So now it's up to the queen. She can delay, she can attack, or she can activate, or she could swap. She's going to go ahead and attack this goblin right here. So she's rolling 3s. Notice she only hits in a 5. So obviously not as powerful as a lot of the other units. So 5 hits, rolling 3 dice. Okay, so that's all she has. 3 dice. And the queen is going to roll gold for the crown, right? So she only hits at a 5, so she only actually does 1 wound to the goblin there. So 1 wound is better than no wounds, right? So she does 1 wound to the goblin there, and activation then goes over to this guy here. So so he's already activated his quick reflexes. He cannot activate that again, but what the monk is going to do is actually do the switch with the adjacent spot again. He's trying to get the wizard away from the giant spider who's going to eat his face off. So this will cost him an activation, but he is going to switch with the wizard again. So bring this to the front, and I'm going to just put a little token on there so we know that he activated, so he won't get to do anything else, but he's now activated the wizard. The wizard can choose his ability and do all kinds of really cool, super cool things. Now remember, we also have this. And if I would have remembered that, I probably would have played it a little bit ago, but I wanted to see how things play out. See if we have the upper hand or they have the upper hand. So so now that the monk has swapped places, we look at this activation. The wizard is not activated. He could just do his normal attack, which is a ranged magic attack, 4 dice, or you can choose to do his fireball attack at least 2 spaces away, which would do this goblin, and this knight. So I think what he wants to do is he could actually target this goblin and all adjacent, so it would be this goblin and the knight for the fireball. Now, just think if we were on top of things, and I didn't have to keep track of all the different units and explain everything as I go, but if we would have used this power, play this card before activating an ally unit, we could have actually moved this knight, we could have activated this, played this card on this knight, and it would have allowed us to, if the unit chosen is knight, it can swap places with any other unit. The knight could have swapped places with the giant spider, which would have put him down here, but it would have put the giant spider right where the knight is. Would have put the giant spider down here, which now gives the wizard a great target to blow up these 3 units. So if we were thinking and we had not have to concentrate on every little aspect of the game going on, obviously you wouldn't have to do this, manipulate cards and drag in tokens. It would be a lot more fluid if you're playing face-to-face and you had actual cards in your hand. This is just for demonstration purposes only. But of course, keeping this card in my hand, because it is the last card I have, obviously could be advantageous because my opponent doesn't know, and I might want to keep it actually for a dire emergency anyways. Right now I think we have the upper hand, but that can change. So the wizard is actually going to attack the let's see. He's going to attack this goblin sapper. Let's try and get rid of these goblin sappers. So he's just going to do 4 dice, hitting on 4s. Excuse me. We're going to add 1d6, and so so he does 3 points of damage. Goblin doesn't have any way to block any of the damage, so he's going to take 3 points more of damage. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now you can see he's at -1, so he's going to have to make a death saving throw. The wizard activated, so E is done. Move on to the next column. Monk is already activated, so we move on. Cannot activate again. We are at the very end of the round, and the giant spider is last to attack. And he's doing 4 dice. Let's just make sure he does. Yep. 4 dice, hits on 4s, so we'll just re-roll that. And he does 6, 1, 2, 2. Horrible roll, and does a whopping 1 point of damage to the monk. And then at that point, bloop, the counters switch. The end counter becomes the top. The top becomes the end, and we start the process over again. All activations go away, so everyone can now activate again. So that is 1 turn. We are starting our 2nd turn up the track, and when that's completed, that is 1 full round. So giant spider gets to go again, and nothing special he can do other than just to bite the monk really, really hard. He does a pretty good job and does 3 points of damage there. And so now the monk has 4 damage already. His activation's over. It goes to the monk. Before the monk plays, we could play a card. The enemies could play a card. Well, I'm not choosing trade places with adjacent, so we could do this. No, I think the monk will just attack the poison spider. Unfortunately for us, the poison spider has the poison spite, and an enemy unit that immediately attacks the giant spider takes 1 wound for each roll 1. So we are going to We're not going to switch places. We're not going to delay. So the first thing we must do is roll a death saving throw. We have to roll, we have 4 wounds, we have 3 life levels, so we are at -1. We need to roll a 2 or higher, or we are dead. So 1d6. They roll a 6 and we're fine. It doesn't matter how much damage we take now, because we don't do any more death saving throws until before we activate our unit. So we're going to activate him, and we are going to attack the giant spider. 3 6-siders. So we can add 2d6 to that. And bloof. 632, so he ends up doing 1 point of damage to the spider. Actually, let me check the roll. Did he roll any 1s? Because he would wound himself. No, he did not roll any 1s. Good for him. Moving on to the next. Bloop, go over to the wizard. He can delay. He can switch with the adjacent ally. And of course, he can activate. So he will activate. He does not need to make a death saving throw. This time... He's going to just do his normal range 2 attack on the goblin again. He could, again, fireball, special, but that would just take too much damage. I don't want to put too much damage on this knight, so I'm just going to do my normal ranged attack, 4 dice, hitting on 4s, so we're going to add 1 more dice, 1d6, right. And does a... I'm sorry. The wizard has 2 points of damage. Did he take 2 points of damage? Who would have hit him? No, I don't think so. I think I just moved him over here. Okay, yeah. I don't think he actually... I was keeping them as... just as counters, just in case I needed them. That's what I believe. So he didn't have any damage. I don't think anybody had attacked him. Yes. So he didn't have to make a death saving throw. So he ended up doing a whole whopping 1 point of damage. Bloop. Over here on this goblin here, who now has 5 wounds. The queen gets to go first, though. So we're moving our token over to the next. Going over to the queen. I'm just showing you the process. Obviously, you're not going to have all of this stuff up on the board. You're just going to have, you know, your cards laying down. You're going to know once the wizard's done, the queen gets to go and do her actions. And there might be activation tokens just to show which units have already activated, but we shall see. Anywho, she's got no bonuses other than when she takes damage. An adjacent ally must take her first 2 wounds. So if she can do some more damage to the goblin, he might fail his death saving throw. So obviously 3. She's not a very powerful unit, but she is giving us quite a bonus because they're rolling 2 death saving throws. I might have actually forgot to do that. So she's rolling 3s, dice, 3d6. But remember, she only hits at 5s and above. Good for her. She hit once again. She's actually done quite a bit of damage. 1 point every time. That's pretty good. Not too bad. So, that's her activation. It comes to this unit here. He will activate and make his death saving throw. Obviously, he has no choice. 2, 4, 6 wounds, so he's at -3. Unfortunately for him, the queen is still on the board, so he's going to have to roll 2 6-sided dice and hope he passes. He's at -3, so he needs a 4 or above on both of his dice. He rolls a double 3. Unfortunately for him, this goblin has been killed. Okay. And then I'll just slide everybody over. Just make some space there. Alright, so activation goes to the next goblin here. Bloop. Who had 2 wounds. So let me not mix up our moons here. We're on the other guy. So he has 2 wounds, he has 2 life levels, so he's at 0, does not need to make a death saving throw. He will attack the knight. 3 dice. Options, add 1d6. And oh, wait a minute. Reroll. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's just horrible, 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 horrible. So he rolls 1 hit and 2 blocks. So he does no damage. But he is activating. He says, I'm going to play a card. And what? Wait a minute. Play this card after attacking an enemy unit. Oh, okay. Well, timing is good. So I guess he can play the card. So we have a cursed pendant placed on an enemy unit. That unit only does wounds on 6 or plus. If the enemy unit was just attacked by a gamma, that unit also loses its next activation. So, bloof, he has now got the cursed pendant on him. I'm just trying to find the best position. So now this unit is only going to hit on 6 or above, which really nerfs him pretty bad. And he loses his next activation. So, we move on to the knight, which loses his next activation. And we move on to, whoops, come on, silly thing. Move on to the next knight. He could choose to swap. Nope, because swapping counts as an activation, so he could not choose to swap. He could choose to delay, which does not count as an activation, but if he delays, that's not going to be any good for him. So he'll just activate and lose his activation because of the cursed pendant. And now we're moving on to this knight. Just trying to see if there's a tactical situation that I can get to help out our cause here. Just trying to think if I want to come over and try to protect the queen. I could switch with the goblin and force him over here, so then we have 2 goblins back to back, but it would force one goblin to yep, I think I will do that. Before I activate my unit, I say I'm going to play a card. And this will be my last card, a quick swap. I'm playing it on my knight here. If the unit chosen is knight, it can swap places with any other unit. So, this knight is actually going to switch places bloop, with his west helmet, of course, and his 2 wounds, of course. He's going to switch places with this goblin right there. Remember, this goblin already activated. He would have had a little activation token on him. So now that we've swapped spaces, I'm kind of protecting the queen because she's giving us a great bonus. All enemies are rolling 2 death saving throws. And so this goblin already activated, so we move on to this guy. Ploof. And now the blue player is really in trouble because he's got 1 unit that he can't actually use. And I've kind of overwhelmed him with my superiority and my play and out thinking and out strategizing him. So it gets to this unit, it can actually swap or delay or activate. If it activates, it can't do anything. If it swaps, it won't be able to do anything. If it delays, it can't do anything. So, bloof. He activates, can't do anything other than maybe he can play a card. He can't play a card, so he chooses to pass, and that's the end of the one full round. That's the end of the turn, and that is the end of one full round. So then this switches back over to the top, and this switches back over to the end, and that is one full turn. Now, that would be, we would go ahead and proceed again from top to bottom. The only difference being that now that we've ended one full round, both players get to draw one card. So they might have some more tricks up their sleeve that they might possibly be able to do for the next round. So at the end of every round, each player gets to draw one card. Again, everything you've seen here is obviously subject to change. Some of the numbers might be lowered or increased. The life levels might be increased. The to hit might be increased or decreased. But the basic mechanics of the game aren't going to change much from what we've been talking about so far. So again, guys, seriously, that is, I have a good feeling that what's going to end up happening, unless Boo can swap these out, this unit's kind of wasted. He can't do anything, which is great positioning by the red player to have that happen. And what's going to end up happening is this goblin is going to have to fight this knight back and forth until one of them die. And let's assume, we end up killing this goblin, which actually is a sapper. So what he could do is just blow up. But if he blows up, he's going to be taking his own unit with him. So his strategy to try and have the goblin swarm come out was a great strategy. It just didn't work out really, really good for him in the long run. He just didn't do enough damage with the sapper. If he could have wounded both of those knights right off the bat, that would have been a big, big, big help for him. Of course, there's lots of other cards that could have been played that totally changed this outcome. And of course, just by having us go first as opposed to the enemy, the cards would have been laid down differently and possibly have a totally different outcome. I could foresee the fact that you could have the same cards in your hands, and just by the way they're played and different, playing one card or two cards and trying to align different things can certainly have a different outcome of the battle. So I have a good feeling that red is in a good position to win this. Like, again, we're just going to be fighting back and forth here until one of these two units dies. And even if he kills us, he's got to go through this knight next. And two goblins versus two knights, I'm feeling pretty good. We have a lot more attack dice than they do. We have a couple wounds on this guy over here, but that's not too bad. These goblins actually have a few wounds to play with. And then, of course, this is going to be a chance of beating the spider down. The wizard can attack him. The monk can attack him. 2-on-1, we're going to whittle this guy down pretty quick. And then, of course, we'll still have a few units left to knock it off. So I have a pretty good feeling. Excuse me, my gosh. Must be all this talking makes my throat dry. Anyways, I have a good feeling that red has a good opportunity to win. Of course, now that it's the end of the round, we might draw a super good card that would be able to help us. An item that he might be able to place down, or a skill that might be able to alter the flow of the battle, or whatever. And don't forget, those units, or the different players might have already claimed some locations, so they might be able to activate certain powers that might alter the outcome. If our opponent had this item here, for example, this would be a great example. If this item, if this player had already won this item here, when you win this location, you can choose one time to move an item from one unit to another unit. So all of a sudden, he could take, the blue player could take our blessed helmet off of our knight and maybe give it to one of the goblins, or maybe the giant spider. and then all of a sudden, that could alter the course of the battle. Obviously, you would have probably done this in the beginning when I brought it out. Or it might actually, because he actually has this item, it might force me not to play items out there anymore. So, that could be a definite strategy. Maybe this is the first location won by my opponent. Now I have to think, anytime I bring a item out, he can take that item and give it to one of his units. Or, I could now take, if I would have won this, if this was on my side when he played the Cursed Pennant on me, I could then take the Cursed Pennant and place it on one of his units by activating this power as well. So he probably wouldn't have actually played the Cursed Pennant on me, knowing that I can actually take it and give it back to one of his units. So lots of tactical decisions going on, not only with just the units in play, but the units in your hands, and of course, the location cards that you're trying to fight over. So again, guys, that's just a kind of a quick overview. Probably everything we did in 30 minutes here in this video. Probably, we played for about 20 of the 30 minutes between talking about some of the new rule changes and everything. But in those 20 minutes, you could probably have played one whole round within maybe 5 minutes, I would think. You can see one round back and forth. You just, okay, I'm activating, I'm rolling, do, throw your little wound tokens on them, play your cards. Maybe 5 minutes worth of actual gameplay, I would think. Obviously might be a little bit slower with more units out there, but as units start getting killed off, you're only going to have maybe 2 blue units and 3 red units, and all of a sudden it's going to go, the round is going to start going a lot faster. So again, guys, thanks so much for watching. More videos to come on Legions of War, high fantasy card game, but it all comes down to you at this point. I've kind of given you the overview. I've showed you how the game plays. I've given you most of the details on activating a spot, how to set up for a battle, how the different cards, what they do. Probably that's pretty much all of the important rules, other than the main rule is every rule in the game can be broken by a unit or a ability. So you've already seen quite a few of those, with the monk being able to activate, which doesn't cost an activation. The fireball, which can attack it more than 2 spaces away. So there's lots of things that are going to break all the rules of the game. And as I said, this is pretty much, kind of in a nutshell, the tactical fantasy flavor that we're going to go for. Again, the numbers might switch, the dice numbers and the 2-hit numbers, but the flow of the game is pretty much going to stay exactly the way it is now. So hopefully you guys are thinking that this could be something that you would find very interesting to play. There's going to be, as we looked at several episodes ago, obviously I'm going to have to bring it back up here. Obviously we're going to have lots of different races. We've only looked at just a few, we looked at a few of the knight powers. We only had 1 monk card and 1 wizard card and a few of the kingdom cards. And then mostly goblins and some crooked teeth powers, I believe, are the only ones. So you can see a lot more that is hidden behind the actual curtain, sort of say, with different powers, different abilities. What I'll probably do in the next episode is show you what a card set is like. We'll probably look at the knights, which you have a pretty good idea of what they already do, but we'll look at all the knights cards in the card set, and then maybe do the same thing with the goblins and show you guys what a card set looks like, and what you can expect. Elves, obviously. Wildlanders would have their own card set. Elves would have one. Halflings, barbarians, they're all going to have their own card sets. So again, it's not going to be a matter of mixing and matching and picking, I want 3 of the knight cards and 2 of the halfling cards and 4 of the dark elf cards to make up a set. Nope. You choose knights, you get all the knight cards. You choose the monks, you get all the monk cards. And as we talked about in one of our videos, all of the different goblin units are all going to have 1 power. The goblin swarm is going to be their power. Now each one might have different powers beside that. We haven't actually seen this one yet, so we'll save that for another day. I don't want to get too overwhelmed with that, but card sets will be card sets. Wizards, even though you're getting wizards, each wizard is not created equal. They all share a same power, but they all have different powers as well, and different stats, and different everything. So, obviously fine-tuning some of the abilities, fine-tuning the mechanics with, the dice, how many dice need to be rolled, how much, and is 4 too little? Should we add, maybe we should make it 5s are the default, and 6s are the bad fighters, and 4s are the good fighters, which I've been actually thinking about doing, switching from the default from 4 to 5 because of the low number of hit points. Obviously the low number of hit points is there for a reason, because you can actually go all the way up to -5 and still be alive. So in essence, this giant spider could have 9 hit points because it's at 4. It can go all the way to -5 and still make a death saving throw. And so that would be, you'd have to do 9 wounds to him. Of course, he could die after the 5th wound too. When he's at -1 hit point, he could roll 1 on a 6-sider. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And of course, less damage on units causes the game to take longer, because you're obviously going to have to activate more units to do more damage. So things to think about. I might try a few little variants to figure out which one works the best. But really this game comes down to whether or not we can get enough interest in the game from players out there. And I'm obviously not going to be creating 10 different races and 30 different units per race and everything for no purpose whatsoever. We would like to eventually get to that point where we have enough backing, we have enough support, we have enough interest in this for me to continue doing lots and lots of different races with different units, and just showing you guys that. But anyways, we'll probably do another episode or 2 on card sets so you can see the differences between the card sets. And we'll see you in the next episode. So thanks so much for watching. See you next time.